And I've got a studio full of guests. This is a really exciting day and really fun. Don McCracken is here from our High River Online newsroom.
We've never had this much body heat in one room.
I know.
And it comes in handy today.
It does, right? What is with this weather? And we're very, very excited that Alberta Premier Alison Redford is here. Thank you for coming in.
Well, it's really nice to be here, not in the High River studio, but great to be here.
Well, and it always just feels nice when the Premier pops in. Like, I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd just come say hi.
Well, I had breakfast at Tim Hortons this morning and then went to Foothills Composite, and we announced a new refurbishment of that school and just hanging around for the rest of the morning.
Yeah, which is kind of nice. There's got to be perks to the job sometimes too, right? It's not always easy. So
well, it's just fun to talk to people and to just see what's going on, what's on people's minds. And it's February already. I can't believe that. We're through January and off to another year.
It went by so fast, but we're smack into February now, and we just thought we'd check in with you and kind of have a chit chat while you were here, and we appreciate you coming to hang out with us.
Yeah, we certainly do, Premier. And let's talk a little bit about your reason for coming to Okotoks. You mentioned Foothills Composite. First of all, how was the main stage production? I guess you got to see one of the numbers.
Well, it was fantastic. We saw the opening number for the Putnam County, 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. There were all sorts of words I couldn't spell in there. I was checking with the audience that there were some tough ones, but really talented kids. Really good production. And something that really surprised me for anyone who's seen it, there's a lot of redheads in that cast, which I always notice because Sarah's a redhead. But honestly, an awful lot, but really talented. And we were there today to announce a refurbishment, the 69th of 70 school refurbishments around the province, $28 million to go to new labs, new HVAC systems, a new stage, and new infrastructure to let kids learn what they're passionate about.
And bringing the shop facilities up to grade because, as we know all too well, there's a shortage of trades.
Well, exactly. In Alberta, certainly, and of course we've experienced that in High River and Okotoks as well. And we want to make sure that kids have those career choices in high school and aren't waiting until they get to trade school. You know, the other thing we know is there's a lot of people who really would prefer to get started in getting their technical training earlier so that they can be part of the economy sooner and have a great quality of life. And we want to give them those options.
Speaking of rebuilding, there's a lot of that being done just down the road in High River. As you say, we're in our High River studios.
That's
here
right.
in Okotoks. Let's just talk about flood mitigation because here we are in February and a lot of people are already getting nervous about June just being not too far away.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really important. There are two things that are important right now. One is to make sure that communities are prepared. And there's a lot of work that the Flood Task Force is doing through Rick Fraser with the High River Council to make sure that all of the equipment is in place, that we're putting in place as much of the berms and infrastructure as we can possibly, as soon as we can before the spring. And the other is to actually monitor the snowpack. I mean, I think we're all pretty aware every day we wake up, there's more snow. It makes us a bit nervous. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're on top of that, certainly monitoring that. End of February is a time when decision makers start to assess and we prepare. But there's tremendous investment that is continuing to go on in High River. We'll probably have over $800 million of infrastructure and mitigation in to rebuild. That's not news to anyone in High River, unfortunately. It's just a tough situation, but we're getting it done quickly. We're monitoring that pack and making sure that we can be as prepared as possible.
And even if the shovels had gone in the ground the day after the flood, a lot of this wouldn't be done in time for this June, but still that work has got to be done in advance to get that started.
Well, absolutely, as soon as possible. And there has been some work done, and we'll continue to do that work as we can. You know, some of the mitigation projects that we're talking about may take 2 or 3 years, but getting them done quickly is important. A lot of the work that's happening right now, the engineering work, is working with all of neighboring communities so that we're not just looking to the immediate community of High River, but how's it going to impact Black Diamond or Turner Valley or Okotoks to some extent, so that we're actually looking to what the river basin looks like, how the flows are going to move, and make sure that we're putting the right pieces in. But some of the work around the diversions, the diversion and some of the original plans are moving ahead, and as soon as possible, got to get them done.
Speaking of keeping track of what's going on in the mountains, the river forecasting has taken a bit of a hit because of the lack of awareness beforehand. Is that also being upgraded?
Well, it's all part of the same system. And, one of the things that we have to go back and remind ourselves of is that this was a disaster and that a lot of what happened wasn't something that could have been predicted because the river flows were so unexpected. We know that. We're preparing for that. Rick Fraser is not only our minister responsible for reconstruction in High River, but also responsible for building and capacity and looking to some of those lessons learned through the Alberta Emergency Management Agency, because of course he was so close to watching how it all worked to make sure that that's in place. It's very important that we make sure that people that are involved in making those decisions and tracking those are going to be informed and ready. And it's all hands on deck right now for that.
Yeah, it certainly is. And speaking of all hands on deck, I know a lot of people in High River would like to see more hands on deck at the Disaster Recovery Program offices, because there's a lot of people. I know myself, I was at my bank recently, and my banker said, I've seen one check go through here.
Yeah, well, there's $20 million that has been paid to individual residents in High River already, and there's more to come. And every circumstance is unique. It's not just we know about what the community needs to do to rebuild. It's what individuals need to do. Ken Hughes is our new minister responsible, and he and Rick have been working on that. I'm very concerned about making sure that we get DRP completed as soon as possible so that people have those resources in their hand and that they have certainty. Some of the insurance issues have now been dealt with, and we are pushing as hard as we possibly can to deal with these because it is a concern. I recognize that it's a concern. We're very lucky to live in a province where we have resources, where we can support people in disasters. We're very lucky to live in a community where everyone across the province wants to do that, and we're going to get it done.
Has insurance started to come around? I know it was a big problem at the beginning, but has it started to kind of fall in line?
Well, it has as much as it's going to, and we've found some companies have been very helpful in terms of compensating, perhaps even though policies weren't covering certain sorts of damage. And so some of those are now wrapping up in the sense that insurance companies have closed their files. It's taken a long time. We were very frustrated in the beginning, as I know, of course, people who were impacted were. And there's more work to do with insurance companies for the future. This was not something where we're going to pretend that there aren't lessons to be learned there. Our Minister of Finance, Doug Horner, is working with them to see what we need to put in place next time, what other options might be available, what's happening with respect to premiums and that sort of thing, so that we're as ready as we possibly can be.
Yeah, I know. Not long after the flood, we got a great-sized hailstorm, and one fireman I know said, well, good luck ever getting insurance here in High River again.
Well, and one of the issues that we're aware of and what we've talked to the Insurance Bureau of Canada about is that that's not acceptable, and that we need to know and people need to have confidence that they're going to be able to get those policies, that they're going to help them as much as they possibly can. And I give a lot of credit to our Minister of Finance for shifting some of that and getting insurance companies to think differently and to understand how significant this was in our community. I remember going down to Toronto about 10 days afterwards, after the flood, to talk to the Insurance Bureau of Canada, and there were 7 or 8 insurance companies around the table, and the first thing they said to me was, well, the premiums are going to go up. And I said, I'm not here to talk about that today. I'm here to talk about what you're going to do for people that were impacted by this flood. You can put in place your business decisions later, but right now we've got to take care of people.
There are other things going on, of course, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention agriculture.
Absolutely.
A week ago on a Friday, we were talking about, Jerry Ritz was talking about how positive things looked on coal, and by Monday it had all fallen apart. You must have been surprised and obviously disappointed.
Well, very disappointed. Verlin Olson, our Minister of Agriculture, works really well with Ed Fast and Jerry Ritz on this issue, and things looked like they could have turned out differently. We are very supportive of the position the federal government has taken in saying that this is now a trade issue that we need to be aggressive on, because we can't sit back and let the Americans do this on coal. It's not something where we can let them play politics. This matters to our industry, and we're going to keep working as hard as we possibly can. It's an area where we're in very close contact with the federal government, and I know that Verlin will be continuing to do that work.
Does Alberta have a spot during WTO? during the hearings?
We have a role. It's for us to determine with the federal government whether or not we intervene individually, and that'll be a decision that we make in terms of really what the strategy is around doing this. Because we're so aligned, I know we'll be able to make the decision together. It may be that we support the federal position. It may be that we intervene individually. Once we make that decision, we'll take a step forward. But we are united in terms of the position, and so that allows us to have some impact, I think.
And I know another big topic just recently is the grain backlog. I know the railway is a federal jurisdiction, but is there something the province can do to help that along?
Well, we're working very closely on this. Verlin has been dealing with this, and of course, one of our concerns on this is that the reason we think we're seeing the backlog is because we're not seeing pipelines moving as quickly as possible. So that work has to continue as well with Gateway, with Energy East down to New Brunswick, and yet again, Keystone. So we'll keep doing that work and know that there is an issue there. We have been asking for rail companies to come to the table to try to deal with where we are seeing those, I'm going to call them choke spots. And I know that has gone some way in terms of dealing with them on a sort of an immediate basis. But it is a longer term issue, and what's going to resolve the issue is getting these pipelines through.
Yeah, and as disappointed as you may have been with Cool, you must have been happy with the decision on Friday regarding Keystone.
Well, we were really pleased with that because, my view personally is that if this was moving in a way that the president didn't want to approve this, there was a risk that report could have said things that weren't quite as optimistic as they were. What that report showed was that they are listening to science, they are listening to real information, and they're focusing on the project. And that's very important for us. We're very pleased with that. And we think it's going to be very helpful because, we see in the United States right now on my last trip, the mood shifting in the Senate and in Congress because they're coming up to midterm elections. And so many Democratic senators are saying to us, this matters for jobs in my community, and that's what I'm telling the president. If this doesn't get approved, their re-election is in jeopardy. So the discussion is changing, and so that coupled with the report leaves me eternally optimistic.
Welcome to High River again.
There we are.
Where we remain eternally optimistic.
Absolutely.
Just one last thing, if I could, and that's I don't know if backtracking is the right term, but ambulance dispatch has been a real bugaboo rurally because there was a time where you phoned Black Diamond and Black Diamond sent out an ambulance and it was there quickly, and that's not the case anymore. What can you tell me about both the number of code reds that mean ambulances from here end up in Calgary and we're short, or just the simple fact that dispatch is now being looked at again?
Well, I think, and it's something that Fred Horn and I talked about, because we're not going to be able to go back to an ambulance sitting in Black Diamond and waiting until someone from Black Diamond needs an ambulance. We're a province of 4 million people. Some of the health services that people need down at the South Calgary Hospital are, those services are part of an integrated health system, and we want to integrate ambulance service into that. There is no doubt that we have an issue with respect to dispatch in terms of, particularly in this region, how those rural connections are made. And so some of the work that I asked Fred Horn to do after the Board of Alberta Health Services was removed last summer was to take a look at this again and make sure that we're accomplishing two things. One is creating an integrated system where people can get the help they need in the healthcare system where they need to, but also that people can have confidence in the system. So I'm pleased that we're taking this step. There is work that needs to be done with what I'll call regional municipalities or this space here. And that's good. And, we're, as a government, very prepared to say that if there are things that need to be done better, we're going to do them better. And that's what you do when you try to evolve a system and try to improve a system. And we're going to be honest about that. And if there's something that needs to be done better, we're going to do it. And I think this is a good step forward.
Well, thank you very much.
It's
I appreciate
really nice
you taking time to come down and see us again. It's as Jody mentioned, just a little over a year, and things have certainly changed a little bit since then.
That's right. And we were talking about how last time it was beef jerky we were eating.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's good.
We didn't get food this time. What were we thinking?
I know.
But I like that you brought out technical terms like bugaboo.
Thank you.
How many times do you get interviewed, you get asked about the bugaboo with the I love you, Don.
Not often, not often. No.
Now, we know whenever you're in the neighborhood, you're always tuned right to Sun Country, and you're always listening because you love country music. If you were to request a song today, is there a song I could play for the Premier? That would be really cool.
I am going to request a song, but I'm going to tell you a story first. Just before Christmas, I was on another radio station in Calgary, and they said...
I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding.
And it was fun. and they said, we're going to ask the Premier to request a song, but she can't pick a country song. I thought, I don't know what to do if I can't pick a country song. So today, just because it's so beautiful and we're in southern Alberta and I'm thinking of my daughter because it's one of her favorite songs, I'd like to hear, I hope everyone else would like to hear Paul Brandt, Alberta Bound.
Oh, who doesn't want to hear Paul Brandt?
Know.
All right. Well, Premier, thank you so much for coming in to hang out. It's always great to see you.
Good to see you.
And good luck on the rest of your tours around the neighborhood. It'll be fun.
On.
Okay, here we go. It's Paul Brandt, requested by our Premier. It's Alberta Bound on 99.7 Sun Country.